Is a gambler. How he gets that name is because there is no limit on a bet he will take or make. The sky is the limit with him.
Frank, of course, is the man who wrote the fabulous music for Guys and Dolls, which is about the best musical, I think, in the world. I just really do say that.
Once more for the West Coast, louder.
Best musical in the world.
Frank Loesser is like Cole Porter without the martini in his hand.
Frank was a knockabout street guy, but he was the best of all of the knockabout street guys.
Flamboyant, loud, brassy, New York, Jewish.
The image of Frank with the Camel cigarette and the glass of scotch in the other hand was not a made-up image. I mean, that was Frank.
His music went to your heart and your soul. His music went to what became part of you emotionally.
As a lyricist, he was able to capture the way people actually talked, but he elevated it so that it was more poetic.
He's very aware of the idiosyncratic speech of his characters, and that's one of the things that makes his lyrics come to life and make you believe that this is actually the characters speaking and not a writer putting words in their mouths.
Frank Loesser's Guys and Dolls was brought to the Broadway stage in 1950. It is considered by many to be the greatest American musical comedy of all time. Thousands of productions of Guys and Dolls have been seen all around the world, including an iconic movie starring Marlon Brando and Frank Sinatra. The role of Sky Masterson, the fearless gambler, has drawn many notable actors to the show.
Yeah, chemistry. Suddenly I'll know when my love comes along. I'll know then and there.
I'll know at the sight of her face how I care, how I care, how I care.
And I'll stop and I'll stare at that face. Ain't not wrong.
This summer, I'll have the privilege of bringing my spin to the role, and a story with this much history deserves to be told thoroughly.
The Damon Runyon Theater. Once again, the Damon Runyon Theater brings you another story by the master of storytellers, Damon Runyon. And this one, the Idyll of Miss Sarah Brown.
Well, maybe you never hear of a citizen who is known as the Sky. And also, maybe you never hear of Miss Sarah Brown. It is a fact that any character along Broadway will lay more than a little 6 to 5 that the Sky and Miss Sarah Brown are as far apart as the North and South Pole. This is because the Sky is a gambler, and Miss Sarah Brown is a mission worker, and a 100% all-right doll. But they do get together, and how this is done is a story that hardly anyone believes. But it is true, and I will tell you about it in a minute.
The character of Sky Masterson was first brought to life by Damon Runyon in his short stories. Of all the high players this country ever sees, there's no doubt but that the guy they call the Sky is the highest. In fact, the reason he is called the Sky is because he goes so high when it comes to betting on any proposition whatever. He will bet all he has, and nobody can bet any more than this. His right name is Obadiah Masterson, and he's originally out of a little town in southern Colorado where he learns to shoot craps and play cards, and one thing and another, and where his old man is a very well-known citizen and something of a sport himself. He is maybe 30 years old and is a tall guy with a round kisser and big blue eyes, and he always looks as innocent as a little baby. But the Sky is by no means as innocent as he looks. In fact, the Sky is smarter than 3 Philadelphia lawyers, which makes him very smart indeed. And he's well established as a high player in New Orleans and Chicago and Los Angeles, and wherever else there's any action in the way of card playing or crap shooting or horse racing or betting on the baseball games. But the Sky is always moving around the country following the action. And although Guys and Dolls pulls a lot directly from these stories, A few differences give you an idea of who the man is behind the dice. In the stage version, Sky Masterson places money against the souls of the gamblers, and with one fateful roll of the dice, wins the crowd's dedication to a night at the missionary. In the original story, Sky loses a large sum of money to one particular gambler who is using loaded dice to win the bets. Just when Sky is about to confront him with a pistol in his breast pocket, Sarah Brown interrupts the action. Sky has her, unbeknownst of the loaded nature of the dice, roll the dice to win his soul over to the mission. This violent confrontational gambler is much more true to the man that Sky Masterson is based off of, Titanic Thompson.
Alvin Clarence Thomas was 16 years old when he comes into a pool room in Joplin, Missouri. Not only does he clean everybody out, but there's a sign on the wall that says $200 to anyone who can jump my new pool table. And Titanic thinks that he can probably get that done because, as he said, I can jump like a herd of bullfrogs. So he goes out and gets a mattress, pulls it, puts the mattress on the other side of the pool table, hurdles the pool table and falls to win the bet, which nobody was supposed to be able to do. At that point, somebody asks the proprietor, Snow Clark, what's that fella's name? He says, well, I don't rightly know, but it ought to be Titanic because he sinks everybody.
Titanic was the greatest cheater of all time.
Titanic had any number of long cons, short cons, instant cons that he could present.
He used to take playing cards and stand at the foul line at a bowling alley and throw and knock bowling pins over it with the playing cards.
He had fantastic eyes, great vision, and he could mark the cards during the game.
He also had a remarkable mind. For a man who was functionally illiterate, his mind works like a computer. He understood the percentages in poker long before anyone else, really.
He, played golf, pool. He did everything.
He could cheat throwing the dice down the table. You could two aces together, two sixes together, and roll them to avoid ace and six, and a five comes up to avoid craps coming out.
He was a man who liked his suckers rich and gullible, and he liked his women very young and pretty.
After he beat you playing golf, he doubled the bet and played left-handed. So he'd beat him right-handed, and then come back the next day and beat him left-handed.
Titanic cheated for years, and if he was playing, you pretty well knew he was cheating.
He also loved to compare marks to squirrels. They thought they were tigers. In fact, his marks were squirrels, and when they walked across in front of the alligator, the last sound they heard was snap.
The first night I ever saw him, there was a young guy in there, and Ty was trying to get a proposition down with him, and the guy said, well, you ain't got enough money to bet with me. And Ty said, well, we'll just see about that. And he wiggles a big wad out of his pants, had crisscross rubber bands on it, and it was nothing but $1,000 bills. He throws that on the table, then he reached over and wiggles another one out, and that was nothing but $1,000 bills. The young guy said, you know what? He said, you shouldn't have pulled out that much money in front of me. And Ty, sort of straightened up, and when he straightened up, his vest came up just enough you could see the pearl handle on that chrome .45, and he was a fast draw marksman and wasn't scared to shoot anybody. And so he said, young man, let me tell you something. I've been every place I've ever wanted to go. I've seen everything I've ever wanted to see, and I've done everything I've ever wanted to do. He said, if you think you can get that money and get out the door, he said, take your best shot. The guy never said another word, got up, walked out, and I never saw him in there again.
I hope you all have enjoyed learning about the man known as the Sky as much as I have. If you'd like to learn more about my upcoming performance, please visit my website, caseyurgain.org, or follow me on social media, facebook.com/theoperabro, Snapchat, Instagram, and Twitter @theoperabro, and youtube.com/theoperabro.